from PRX.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, it's the time for the podcaster that puts in podcast. It's time for Sleep With Me. And you may be saying, what? I don't even know. Is there it's time for Sleep With Me. The podcast, it's here to put you to sleep. That's why. You silly geeses. Or what, humans, or pillows, or toothbrushes. Now toothbrushes listen to the show. Sentient ones. I don't know. Anyway, it's a podcast to put you to sleep. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. All right, everybody, Scoots here, and I don't know if you wake up most mornings like me, and you already feel a little frazzled, and then you're starting the year off, and your brain's like, not only are you going to be hard focusing on today, what about the next 12 months? What about the last 12 months? And while I do take a little quiet time in the morning, as soon as I have my cup of coffee, and then maybe my second cup of coffee, and then I start working on stuff, I lose focus, then I get jittery, then I get a little irritable. Believe it or not, Scoots gets a little irritable, and by the end of the day, sometimes I'm exhausted and I look back and I say, what did I actually accomplish? I had so much I had to get done, so much I wanted to get done. And that keeps me on the lookout for new tools, new things I can try out, new things that are going to help me in 2026 focus on what matters and enjoy my life, right? And usually that means something that is easy, maybe it tastes delicious, and it's good for me. Well, how about our sponsor, Everyday Dose? Get the boost you need to accomplish your New Year's resolutions. Lion's Mane helps with natural focus, while L-theanine keeps the stress at bay. Everyday Dose is the perfect boost you need to accomplish your New Year's goals. Plus, did I mention, it tastes just like coffee, but without any jitters. So right now, get 61% off your first Coffee Plus starter kit and over $100 in free gifts. Plus, enter for a chance to win $100 cash or get your entire order refunded. Visit everydaydose.com/sleep or use code SLEEP at checkout. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here. This is a message for all night listeners. So if you listen to more than one episode a night, pay attention. Before I get to that, if you're new, if you only listen occasionally, if you're just going through a tough time, or you're not in a place financially where you could support the show, don't worry about it. We got you. Supporters like Melissa that we're going to talk about here have you. But if you're an all-night listener, and I'm here with you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes a night, I love making this podcast. We put a lot of work into each of those episodes you listen to every single night. And the only reason multiple episodes come out every week is because of the people like Melissa who support the show. And when people like Melissa sign up, I send them a video to find out why they supported the show. Because if you're an all-night listener, it's either you supporting the show or it's another all-night listener supporting the show for you. Maybe their why is stronger. Maybe they just happen to be paying attention. Or there's nights where there's no all-night listeners supporting the show, right? And that makes it really tough to keep the show going. Now, if you decide to support the show right now, you can do that at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, because that's what Melissa did. Melissa had been listening over 2 years, nearly nightly, and the show helps me so much. I finally subscribed when I realized that most nights I didn't have my phone with me, but I could recite the entire beginning of the podcast. At first, it was a cost, but now I'm financially able to do so. But the other part was complacency. I think I was forgetting to do so, and then I'd fall asleep. I've always been one of those super listeners described on the show who kept putting it off. But I think you say it well in the podcast. The show has given me so much support and help. It's time to turn around and support you and the team. It feels nice to feel like we have a hand in keeping it afloat. So thanks, Melissa. If you're the Melissa tonight, maybe you're an all-night listener, or maybe you're some other kind of super listener. I'd love to hear your why of why you support the show. So make sure to reply to that video when I send it out. And you can sign up right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on the show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. And hey, the thing I've been talking about lately is like there's ways to support the show beyond the sponsors and supporting the show directly. If you're an occasional listener, right? If you're a new listener or you can't afford to support the show, follow the show on your podcast app of choice. Make sure to like or comment if your app allows that, and say hi. Spread the word about the show in person when it comes up, or let people know about it. Go ahead right now. Follow the show on your podcast app right now. Then you get the latest episodes and stuff like that. Great. Yeah, spread the word when you can, or sign up for. We're relaunching our referral program. It's going to be based with like live stream get-togethers every once in a while. We're going to make it more fun. You can sign up for that. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. REFER. Thanks, and what do you say we get down with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to attempt to do the rest. Well, actually, I'm going to do the rest either way. Hopefully, I'm going to attempt to help you. And what I'm going to do, I get mixed up there. Early mix-up. I get mixed up. I'm going to do the rest. All you need to do is turn in bed. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place. I'm going to attempt to speak the best I can. Create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's keeping you awake. Thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, travel, whatever's keeping you awake. I'm going to try to take your mind off of that. I'm going to try to bring you into a place where you feel safe, where you feel warm and comforted, where you could relax a little and stretch out so you can feel me stretching my shoulders. I'm not shrugging my shoulders. My shoulders are always another thing when people tell you about, that's another thing with sleep. They say, well, just try closing your eyes. Have you tried that? And you say, listen, bub, I haven't used the word bub in 3 generations of my family, but of course I've tried closing my eyes to go to sleep. But that's the kind of thing when somebody sees my posture. Say, have you tried, pulling your shoulders up and back? And I say, well, my shoulders are just fine the way they are. They're in their natural state of, I don't know if it's, can you have a remorseful shoulder? Let's see if we can come back to that one. Okay, so I'm going to send my voice across the deep dark, and I'm going to use the lulling, soothing tones, pointless meanders, nonsense, nonsense, and they say, well, let's take a look at my spot, but we won't take a hard look at my posture, and we won't take a factual look at it, but we'll take, general. We won't do a Freud. Did Freud ever analyze the posture? Has that ever been a way of therapy? You say, well, let me see your posture. Okay. You should talk to them about that. And you should tell them about that. And also pick your shoulders. And you say, okay, I'm glad that was our first session because I won't be back after you said pick my shoulders up. But I'm really here to brush the dirt off your shoulders or the dust or whatever's keeping you awake, or at least to help. So if you're new, here's the things to expect. Structurally, how the show works is there's about 4 minutes of business at the top of the show. And that's what makes it keeping the show and all the archives free are the sponsors and the patrons that support the show. So thanks for sticking through that or taking action on that. Then there's an intro. The intros are about 12 minutes. I think we've been around for 4 minutes or so. And the intro is a show within a show, a warm up or a cool down. And where you can get ready for bed, you can start to unwind. You could feel your shoulders. You could feel Scoots moving his shoulders. And I'm like, am I moving them clockwise or counterclockwise? Because I've never held a clock like sideways before. So my brain can't I think they're going, now I'm going to go counterclockwise. It's actually sideways counterclockwise. And move your shoulders if you want to. Scrunch them and scrunch them. So that's the intro where I kind of explain how the podcast works. Ideally, earn your trust, or you realize, well, this is kind of like an illusion of trust or something. What did I say about it? Did I say my shoulders were lonely? I think they are. But I think I said something else. Remorseful shoulder. That might be one of them. And my other one's morose. Remorse and morose. You can't say that in the same sentence. So the intro is kind of where you can get ready for bed. You could fall asleep. You could skip over it. Whatever works for you. But it's where I say, I try to create a sense of place. A place where you could relax. And a place where you feel welcome. In a place where you kind of feel appreciated, I guess is the right word. Because if you're having trouble falling asleep and if you found your way to this podcast, I'd really I'm actually giving you a thumbs up right now. Because you say, well, it stinks out there when you can't sleep. And I know what it feels like. And I hope this podcast can help. And you took a little action to try to help yourself fall asleep. Now, this show doesn't work for everybody, but I hope it can help you. But I appreciate the fact that you're having trouble sleeping, and I honestly believe you deserve a good night's sleep. Yeah, so that's the intro. Then tonight will be our ongoing, it's a serial, it's an episodic series, also presented in a modular format, but it does have a taste of seriality to it. But basically it'll be a nice little bedtime story. And our main character is a young woman, and she's navigating a theme park where she's the only guest, and it's pretty dense. Kind of like when you bake something and you missed one ingredient, you're not sure which one, or timing or something, and you say, "Oh boy, this is dense." It's dense as my shoulders. No, that didn't work. But so that'll be a story. We have some thank yous at the end. In between the intro and the story, we have a message ideally from a sponsor. So again, we could keep the show going. So that's what to expect structurally. And then other expectations. Here's the thing. You don't need to listen to me. Clearly, I'm not really qualified for much other than to say, hey, let me try to help you. And what that kind of means is you can kind of listen. I'm your boar friend. I'm your boar bae, your boar bud, your boar sib, your boar bestie. However, whatever many B's we decided, I'm boar bestie forever. B-boar, B-B-F-E-V-A, H maybe, or an apostrophe. But I'm here to help. So the story will be rambling and won't be incoherent, because here's the deal. If you can't sleep, I'm going to be here till the end for you. But that kind of also lets you can fall asleep whenever you want. You can kind of listen to me and you can kind of let me drift away, or you could stay engaged if you need some comfort. I'm here to help. But you're also under no pressure to fall asleep. The shows are about an hour, and some people create a playlist or whatever, or start playing the show when they wake up in the middle of the night. Because I'm here to kind of like keep rambling and keep you company. So ideally, we'll kind of be walking side by side, and I'll be talking about my shoulders, old remorseful. I'm questioning my shoulders. I'm saying, which one of you is remorseful? Because we better sit down and have a conversation about this. Like, what exactly are you, what don't I know about? I thought I knew you because you're attached to my body. And now you're telling me you're filled with remorse. And I said, is it like are you projecting inward or outward? Because, well, let me talk to the audience and then I'll get back to you. Also, between you and me, listeners, I haven't decided if it's the left one or the right one. Who I'll, that I'll engage with and say, I mean, maybe I should talk, or do you think I should talk to the other shoulder? Because, well, I don't know how to address I've never talked to shoulders before. Here's a big piece of honesty. However many years I've had this body, I've kissed my shoulders and I've nibbled at my shoulder. I mean, this is big time. I'm exposing myself. This is vulnerability city here. I've patted my shoulders. I've rubbed them. I've smelled them, given them kisses and said, how's my shoulders? You do it too. It's okay. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'll take the embarrassment. I've warmed my shoulders, but I've never had it, all my days, I've never had a conversation. I don't even know, other than physically acknowledging their existence. Does that mean I'm just starting to live? Oh boy, I hadn't lived until I engaged with my shoulders. So I'm just wondering, how do you address a shoulder like the other one? You say, I hear your partner's feeling remorseful. And also, because the shoulders are attached to me, maybe they have the same vocabulary as me. So say, oh, no, that's not remorse you're feeling. You're misusing a word because you're attached to my brain. You're not morose either. I don't know the word, but I know the feeling you're feeling, shoulder. Yeah, maybe. Okay, I think we're working through this. Maybe I'm not ready to engage you directly, just through the audience here, shoulder. And I'd say, shoulders, you're a team, and we're all a team. I don't know if we're the sum of our parts or the bigger than the whole or whatever they say. But I'm going to shrug you. I'm going to be here. Maybe I need to shower you with more than kisses. And the time I nibbled at you, that was just, I was just like, I don't know what I was doing. I think it was nervous nibbling. But I'm here, and if you need me to slowly get to know you, so in a way we could have a one-on-one or a two-on-one convo about being remorseful or morose or one of those other things, like when you don't want to get out of bed. I realize you don't have it. I'm sure everybody thinks the life of a shoulder is glamorous, doing whatever, being on the side of the arm. You got a great view. You're within kiss. I mean, think about it. What other part, you're right in the kissing zone. Auto shoulder. What do they call that when you kiss your own shoulder? Oh, strange behavior. What are my shoulders as a comedian now? That's hilarious. You call it strange. Yeah, well, you should have been your first line, but you won't be being kissed anytime soon. Except when I wonder, I say, get out of the shower. I say, I wonder how that shoulder smells. So maybe you still will be kissed. I don't know. Maybe one day yet. Maybe one day. I don't know. You could keep cracking those jokes at my expense. But I'm here to help shoulders and humans everywhere. And I'll shrug you, I'll rub you, do that rubbing, heating up motion if you're ever chilled. Though I really don't like to expose you unless we're really in humidity city. That's the only time I like to let you, other than at home. I mean, clearly it's like, lately I've had to wear a shirt to say, well, this is a shirt-free zone here when I'm, but yeah, I do like it to get you some air when that humidity, when we're visiting somewhere that's humid. But otherwise, they say, well, just keep you under wraps. I don't know, maybe that's something else we could talk about. And I gotta get back to the spot. I mean, I'm sorry I waited I'm sorry I had to come up on a podcast, but actually it always happens. My imaginary friends, and believe it or not, I don't think I've talked to any other body parts except for who. So, so Okay, keep it going, shoulders. You're crushing it. Too bad the audience can't hear all this. But yeah, maybe this will be a whole new. Maybe this is where I get to know my body. Okay, go ahead. That's funny too. So yeah, like where I say, hey, how you feeling, elbow? Okay, keep my attention on you. You two are like a couple of puppies. Anyway, get back to the audience. Excuse me. Whew, I never thought that would happen. But and that's kind of what happens to every podcast for intro if you're new. I say, this is honest what happens. I sit down, I say, okay, gotta tell them the structure of the show, make them feel welcome, or attempt to. Address the fact that if you're skeptical, who wouldn't be? Because this is a strange idea for a podcast and a strange relationship to enter into. And then explain that if listeners don't need to listen or to fall asleep, that you're here to help. And see what else, and then try to make a metaphor for all that. And then usually at the end of 648 of the intros, I say, whew, I didn't expect that to happen. And so I guess, yeah, but who knows? You may have just seen a breakthrough. I don't know if when I do visit the Northern European countries, I don't know. I think I might have got banned from all those institutes and studies, but they still want me back. They say, actually, we didn't run this one set of numbers on this one thing on your amygdala. And is that a self-placed? Then they say, is that a self-placed hickey on your? Well, no, it's not self-placed hickey on my shoulder. It's a nibble. I call it a nibble spot. They say, okay, why don't you come back? We'll fly you back. Okay. Oh, if you're new here. So if you're new, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for trying the podcast. Clearly, I bet you though, maybe, I don't know. Let me know. Do you kiss your own shoulders occasionally? They're kiss. Go ahead and kiss. Is there an international kiss your shoulder day? And hey, don't kiss anybody else's shoulders. Okay. Just kiss your own. Believe me, it'll be empowering. I'm serious. Kiss your shoulders tomorrow. Maybe you could kiss them now, depending on your comfort level, but, just give it a little peck, right on the front, like it's kind of like kissing someone on the cheek. If you move here, I'll try to do it. I just did it. It's not too hard. And you say, I just, I kissed myself. I kissed a part of me that I deal with every day. And somehow that took my mind off of stuff. I don't know what this podcast is about. If you're new, though, I hope I made you feel welcome. I appreciate you coming by. Give a show a few tries. That's what everyone says to say. It takes 2 or 3 tries to understand that it's not quite understandable. And if you've never nibbled on your shoulders, or that's just something you heard about, don't let me know about that. Okay. That's fine. I'm sure the European Institutes of the Mind or whatever, they'll have reports about it, and then I'll see it in I'll see it when the study's released. But what can I say? I'm glad you're here. I work very hard, and I strive and I yearn to help you fall asleep. So thanks for coming by, and let's hear about a couple of ways we keep this show going. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about the sponsor I'm sleeping in, and that's Helix Sleep. And oh boy, you've probably been listening to me the last couple of months. My new Helix is here, and I'm enjoying spending these darker, longer, colder nights in bed. I've been in my Helix loving every minute, even when I've been under the weather, or when I go to bed early, or when I wake up and I want to stay snuggled in bed. Those wonderful mornings where you stay cozy in bed, right? Where you already got a good night's sleep and you feel so comfortable and cozy. Maybe because you got a mattress based on you and how you sleep, your feel preferences, your need preferences, because I'm loving every minute of my new Helix bed. It is so comfortable and so much of an upgrade from the mattress I was sleeping on, which wasn't terrible either, but it wasn't as cozy as the Helix. It didn't feel as comfortable or as supportive. It just felt like a regular mattress, not one that's based on me. I like to sleep cool. I sleep on my side. I sleep on my stomach. And I've developed a fondness for something a little bit firmer. And all I needed to do is go to helixsleep.com/sleep and take the Helix quiz. And I got matched with the Helix that fits my preferences, my sleep needs. It makes buying a mattress so easy. And my Helix came straight to my door, shipped free of charge. And Helix is the most awarded mattress brand. It's tested and reviewed by experts like Forbes and Wired. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide during their New Year sales final hours. That's helixsleep.com/sleep for the final hours of this New Year offer. 20% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. Hey, this is Scoots. This is just a heads up. This is an older episode. It's about candy and candy barons and candy-related things. So if you may want to skip it, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Thanks so much for listening, and good night. All right, welcome back to our ongoing serial or episodically modular serial series. It follows a journey of a young woman, a girl, growing up in a theme park. And it follows her journeys as she learns and grows. And it's a very sleepy and dense series. You could listen to it during the day, but it's mostly made to help you drift off and to really immerse you on a couple different levels. And in order to transition into the story, I'm going to read you a Wikipedia article about the Pepper's Illusion, which is a technique used in theaters, amusement parks, museums, televisions, and concerts. It's named after John Henry Pepper, who lived 1821 to 1900, who popularized it in a demonstration in 1862. You may have seen it in rides or at carnivals where something appears and then can change it. One character, like your smiling buddy, turns into your happy buddy, or a frown, like Lionel Kitty City used to turn a frown upside down. I don't know what they're going to do for Joffrey at Toys R Us if that frown will turn upside down, but it was also used when Tupac went on stage at Coachella in 2012. And how it works, let's see, is an audience is viewing a stage or a room with objects in it, and then suddenly other objects will fade in and out of the room, or one object will magically transform into a different object. And it basically involves a stage that's especially arranged into two rooms, one that people can see into, or the stage as a whole, and the second is hidden to the side. It's called a blue room, and then a plate of glass or plexiglass is placed somewhere in the main room at an angle that reflects the view of the blue room towards the audience. Generally, this is arranged with the blue room to one side of the stage and the plate rotated around at 45 degrees. The glass really has to be clean and invisible. Normally, the lower edge has to be hidden in patterning on the floor and make sure that lights aren't reflecting off it. And when the lights are bright in the main room and dark in the blue room, the reflected image cannot be seen. But when the lights go on in the blue room, often with the main room lights dimming to make the effect more pronounced, the reflection becomes visible, and the objects from the blue room just seem to appear. A common variation uses two blue rooms, one behind and one to the side, which can be switched visible or invisible by alternating the lighting. The hidden room might be an identical mirror image of the main room, so its reflected image matches the main room. This approach is useful in making things appear or disappear, or you can add a person or morph a person, or the hidden room might be painted black with only light-colored objects. so that they could be superimposed or appear to be floating. Let's see, Battista della Porta was a 16th century Neapolitan scientist and scholar, with numerous innovations, including the camera obscura. And his 1584 work, Magica Naturalis, Natural Magic, includes a description of the illusion, which is cool. Then John Pepper and Henry Dirks at the Royal Technical Institute in London. That was the first permanent science-based institution in 1838. Pepper joined their staff and became a professor, and Dirks was famous for a bunch of illusion-based performances in the theater, but they had to rebuild the theater, which was very expensive. Then Pepper saw Dirks' illusion. They set one up at the Royal Polytechnic, and he realized, hey, we could modify this to incorporate into existing theaters. So they did something with Charles Dickens' play. And this is the kind of thing you've seen at amusement parks, in different really famous amusement parks, even in Turbite Manor in Nashville. Attractions and, seasonal attractions, we'll say. Mysteries that could be solved. Even museums like the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and the Museum of Wellington City and Sea, London Science Museum. There's John McEnroe shows up at the Wimbledon Tennis and Lawn Museum, or Lawn and Tennis Museum. Sir Alex Ferguson is the Manchester United Museum. So that's just a few of them. There's plenty more, and it's also used to use it with teleprompters as implementation. On the show Magic School Bus, and an audience with Les Dawson, movie Home Alone, and Sherlock, on an episode of The Mentalist, and in concerts, as we said, with Tupac and other famous people. So that's a little bit about the Pepper's Illusion effect. And as all of the lights slowly dim, but there's still an undertone of warm light there, softening the edges, but filling the room with the warmth that sets you at ease as you drift a little bit deeper with rest. You start to see the outside of a stone building, gray stones, but there's something, you can't quite put your finger on it, cartoony about the old gray stone building. Ah, yes, when you came, maybe you did see my exterior first with the stones. It was the towers, the great stone tower, which was supposed to be the peeper or whatever that draws people to my attraction. And then it was supposed to look like the outside of a castle. But instead of goils, those goils that were played as water spouts, we had corn and what are those fruits, horns of plenty, and broccoli, and statues and carvings, instead of Corinthian columns. We had carrot columns and celery columns. And so my exterior, which it did hold up a bit, it was to create a thing of like, oh, this is an old castle that loves its vegetables and some fruits, there was also rutabagas, a roof, whatever those things are called on the ramparts, where you would stick your head up in between two things. Could be rutabagas or potatoes. you'd say, oh, this is an interesting old castle, but that tall tower, just to set back with a grand, grand view. And it was in a tower which you could see somewhat far away, but when you were close, it played tricks with you. It was very, very forced perspective. Narrowing and narrowing and narrowing, but it was also a tall tower, but you could never go to the top because it was such a forced perspective that when you were close, it was very well done. Not perfectly, obviously, because they had to say, well, if you're this far away in the park, we can't have you seeing a stone tower because now you're in the place of future. But yes, it was the symbols of healthy eating. And then there was also on the ground level to show the meats. There wasn't a lot of dairy, which you would, I don't know, when you came, you clearly, as we spent time with one another, we don't communicate, but you communicated with me because I said, I don't recall. If you were to ask me in the times you were wandering through me, looking upon me, I couldn't have recalled. I'd say, well, I don't recall what that scene was about. I could feel my outside, and I guess I was in a very, very long slumber. I don't know about the other attractions, if they had been watching the whole time. But I think I fell into a deep slumber, and I could feel my outside. It's when you have a column, that's a carrot. It's a column of a carrot, but a lot of other things had faded. And because the audio soundtrack, even hearing the audio and the guests going through the attraction and the carts, the horse, a cart driven by goats or horses or ponies or mules, I didn't remember very much. I said, okay, I see these carts that are in here, parked around, not moving. But yes, you came and started to walk around. But you arrived and you kind of woke me up, and I said, oh, there's things that do stick out to me. Beauty in the darkness. It was one thing that rang through. Though I just had that there, like at the back of my mind. Things about looking into places that you can't see everything. And that it was a bit of a twist and a departure. And that I had a sense that the guests weren't always pleased with me. And I said, but I knew I could feel that I was somewhat ancient because I had iron in me in a much more solid construction than some of the newer attractions. I could sense, I said, oh, this is old iron. I'm not iron, my sides weren't iron, though. That's funny that you say that. I guess that's me talking to me. But I said, how have I forgotten myself? And then you came and started walking through bit by bit, following along my track, which was not hidden at all, and just a simple metal strip, upright, a T with the floor perpendicular to the floor. And that provided the power and the guidance, I guess, for the carts. That made the horses pretend to move their legs and occasionally move their head. You had to push them. But you came in and I said, who is this? At first I said, where have I been? What have I, okay, I can feel my body. Okay, so, and then I could feel where I was, and I could feel my own iron bones, and I could feel the corn. And I said, okay, this outside feels familiar here. And this person, this guest, but she's not a guest, and why is she just walking around willy-nilly? She's not a cast, a member, what is a cast? A member of cast. And then you started poking and prodding and look at me with interest, but with an interest, I I don't know, that was so soft and so curious. I wish I could have told you, if I could have unlocked my secrets to you. But I was excited to be discovered nonetheless. I was excited to have you here very quickly, and that you felt comfortable enough to stay with me. And, I don't have a lot of interactions or I was in like I said, I was in a deep, deep, deep sleep. And you seem determined. I don't know if you were on a quest to help me remember who I was. But when you came, you walked through and stayed with me and pondered and pondered. I think wondering why you couldn't immediately figure out the meaning, the meaning of my attraction, or where was I? It happened to me again, but, oh yes, you started gathering supplies, and I think you had been with enough attractions that you said, okay, this is the loading and unloading area. This is where I'm going to get a big grasp on what she's about, if she is me. And you started bringing paints in, because I had once had a mural, and because of my construction, it was leading into my ride. It looked like you were going into a side door of a castle, up a garden path, and it was a thick door that they actually closed at night. So when they closed the park, the door was closed. But even so, the humidity and the elements, I guess, got in, and the mural it had faded and, I guess, peeled away. But what was interesting was whoever had sketched out the mural or planned it had used some sort of permanent black ink or paint. So while there was no color, and while the outline, there was an outline to a story, it wasn't a perfect outline. And so you started with black paint and a paintbrush, and you started completing the rest of the outline. I think you concluded, as did I, that, the loading and the unloading, because this was a simple attraction, not like these fancy attractions with the queues and the interactive. You just went through a winding queue, and you got on a cart, 2 to 3 people, 2 adults and 1 child, or 1 adult and 1 child per cart. A child in the middle, or on the right side, please. On the inside, right side, left side, right side. Yeah, but you could see that there was 2 sets of murals, but they were mirroring each other in some way, story-wise. And you started to paint the loading mural first, which told a tale. And your painting technique was, I did remember, I said, okay, this is not like those paid painters that would come during my refurbishments, and your work was not exacting, and you didn't use a drop cloth. I remember they used a drop cloths and blue tape and supervisors and reference paintings and discussions about color. Yours was much more of your impressions of how it should go. But your impressions were good, that it was this king and this queen had discovered this thing going through the kingdom that was giving everyone tummy aches and bags under their eyes and lethargy. These are words I heard you practicing, actually. I learned them from you. I remembered them from you. And that then they discovered that it was this candy, that too many people, the kingdom had been penetrated too deeply by candy. What once was just a passing fad, the king had thought, and then the mural showed that even the king fell into the spell of the candy, increased candy consumption. And then the king, in many people, the candy took a high toll on the kingdom. And the queen, she was very unhappy, and she banished candy from a kingdom forever. Yet another tale as old as time. But the queen was quick with a dog, quick with child, I think they say. And right after, not long after she triumphed and with military might over Candy, raised the fields of sugar cane, and the Candy loyalists were thrown out of the kingdom forever, banned. That she raised her child up in a world where children could be healthy and eat well, a queen that cared about the children's health. And then I don't know at what point you decided, okay, well, this other one also shows a queen, and so you said, well, let me hold off on the exit mural. But we had seen on her throne that it was Queen Goji, and you were Princess Zenaida, and she loved you so. And then we entered the ride and showed the queen, and all these healthy children playing, and you Princess, not you, but you, Princess Zenaida, growing. But then the queen being very protective of her daughter and having her live in the tower where you would gaze out at the people. And that was when you actually went into the ride. The ride went around the view of your room, and then went through your window where you were looking out another window. And one of your nursemaids was there, a girl not that different in age than you, but she was working. And you called to her. Now, this part you had to do a lot of work on because it didn't have tronics, but, character figures that you needed to kind of replace parts and come up with hair for and repaint. But this was a room. It was a room inside a girl's bedroom. It was another girl's bedroom, which you made yours, which I found funny. And you tried to design the room. I guess you had a book that you would sit there reading about a medieval, I don't know where you got these books, somewhere else in the park, presumably. But where you would see, well, this is what the kingdom castle looks like, historical. So you put a chamber pot in there. Thank you for not using that chamber pot. And you got the girl, and you showed it, and then there was an illusion that was supposed to show her looking out a window, and then a boy was supposed to appear down there. I did not know any of this, and it took you a long time to figure out these techniques of how they would use the mirrors and the glass and the lighting. Your patience, but that she was watching her window, and then a boy would appear in the square. And we would be in the square. We would go out of that room into the square and be looking up after she had looked out the window and seen the boy appear. And once we were close up with the boy, we would see the boy eating candy. And we would hear the princess. So then you had to figure out, what is the story here? There's a boy outside eating candy. She's watching him. And then we went, after the town square, we went back into your room. Well, actually, it was a kitchen. No, it was the kitchen of the castle where the maid was there again, and you were asking her about the candy. I guess I'm equating you and the princess. I guess I'm sorry for that, but, you were my princess restoring my memories, or maybe this was never the tale. I don't know, but it makes me. So you painted all of those scenes. And I guess you'd learned about black light. So the town square was like, it was just lit with, so the cobblestones looked like they had moon and water on them. And so the candied wrapper of the boy was eating some sort of a chocolate bar. The wrapper was very bright for you to catch it from all the way up in your tower. And you worked on the thing. And you started recording your own audio, which I thought was interesting. And I said, how does she know all these things? She comes to me. Who is this young woman? Old enough herself to be a princess or a maid or a nursemaid or whatever you call these things. But the next one was in the kitchen, and it was the princess talking to a maid, saying, what was that boy eating out there outside my window? And you had said, well, this was candy. He's eating some candy. And she said, it's my brother, so please don't tell on him. And you said, oh, that's your brother, interesting out there eating candy. But then the princess in the next scene, which we just followed, it just followed from the kitchen to the throne room. And this was our first real scene with the queen. And she was there ruling and looking glowingly, which took you a lot of work to add in jewels and make things glow. And maybe you put too much makeup on. I don't know if queens wear as much makeup as you painted on the queen, but she looked more like a jester. Yeah, but then the princess was there saying, Mama, what is candy? And the mother saying, what do you speak of candy? That took your father, the king, away from us and so many of our people. It is banned. Where did you hear of this candy? And then you didn't want to tell on your maid's brother, because he had given her a look, and you seem to have captured that in his eyes with the white against the black light really popping along with the day glow colors of the candy bar wrapper. But back to the scene, the mother scene with her saying, never have candy, and really berating you. Or the princesses and Ida. And then the princess in her room, yet again, looking out the window, but really staring at the moon and looking for the boy. We're pretending to look at the moon, but looking for the boy and drawn in to this thing between her mother and the candy and curious. And then this one was a projection illusion of just turning the corner. And as you turn the corner, you could see her head looking out of another forced perspective tower at a projection against the room of the boy waving up to the tower and then following. And then we followed right into the scene of the boy was following behind a cart that was dropping candy. And then we see the reveal that the princess is following the boy. And this scene was quite a construction for you because it had different, what are those called, conveyor belts. One for the candy moving at one speed to make everything look like it give it motion. And the cart was moving away. And then to make the princess and the boy moving at different speeds, and then the boy reaching down to pick up the candy that was falling out of the back of an open sack on this wagon. And then the boy having his own sack of candy, and then turning again, because then a dog on the back of the cart realizing it and barking. I couldn't believe it. And you do a great bark recording and putting this into the attraction. I say, you're giving me voice again. And then the meeting over the candy, running off away. Now, some of this, we would have to fill in for ourselves as the guests. I guess I put myself as a guest of yours in some sense. But of them sharing the first candy together and him saying, well, my name is Hari. You met my sister Bo. And you saying, well, I'm a prisoner, Ida. And then them sharing the candy by fireside. And then the princess eating for her, a few candy bars. And I don't know if it's ever filled in, that this was some sort of black market candy tier or something. I don't even recall. But that... Then you had some candy and your tummy started to rumble, but you fell deep asleep. And that's when the attraction went through a misty wall and doors that looked misty and opened into your dream. And this was the part of the ride, was just like big wood paintings that would move back and forth. and walls and spinning things, which took a lot of painting for you and light adjusting. A lot of bright colors against black walls of strange walking candies and sad crying celery and broccoli for you, sad for you for eating candy. And of, candies chattering and you're spinning and you swimming in chocolate and then kissing Harry. And for giant, those with gummy bears, I don't think you knew maybe you did know what a gummy bear was, because I had heard from another attraction not that long ago that you yourself had gotten into some of the candy at one of the shops, one of the warehouses where it was preserved, and that you did even worse than the princess, eating and eating and eating the candy until you were very, not feeling good. And maybe you had the same type of candy-driven dream that was both good and strange, we'll say. And there was no pink elephants in this dream, but that would be what they would equate it with, is a pink elephant-filled dream. This was just strange. You say, well, hello, I'm Mr. McChip. That one, I don't know if the audio was already saved, or that you would have known someone was named Mr. McChip. But you had learned your lesson with the candy, and now you don't, I guess you did, well, I guess this plays into everything. Why should I get ahead of things in the attraction? Getting ahead of myself within myself is, I've never said before. But yes, so the dream was a bit wild, a bit fantastic, and you didn't have the music, but you did find crazed music to blare, and, tooting and effects of strange, dreamlike characters. They'd say, what am I, are you some sort of licorice bird? You're here to take me away to the sky, happy sky place. And then we were out of the dream. And the next scene. Now, you stayed a lot of time to contemplate all these things. And I think this is what the caretaker, I don't know, I guess I'm projecting on the caretaker and you and the queen and the princess. But to say, will you be like the princess and tempted so? And what would happen without a queen? Because in the next scene is when the queen, you are at the campsite. The princess is at the campsite. Here I am projecting. And the queen and her soldiers, her knights, find you at the campsite alone. No Hari there, but you curled up warm with blankets, and her face tear-streaked, missing her daughter. Is finding you wrapped, surrounded by empty candy wrappers, and her not happy at all, and her wanting to know what happened, and you saying nothing about Hari or Bo, but just talking about following the black market candy tear, and your mother being so furious, and putting you, saying you will stay in the tower where you're not way away from the candy. And I don't know if you should even have a view outside. And so she covered your windows, and you sat in your room there. The princess sat in her room, and you redid this. This was a couple small scenes. But then there was a scene of her in her room. Again, we returned to her room. And this one had rotating things, so you slowly went around the room, and the room turned. It looked like it was the same room, but a lot of times you were crossing into a new room that looked similar. But it had you sulking, and then you getting into bed and finding a candy heart below your pillow. And then the candy hearts slowly appearing. They had writing on them, miss you, love you. And then they did a thing with your headboard, which was just a circle wheel of candy hearts, kind of showing that slowly the message was saying, trust my sister, eat this candy, think of me, blah, 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 blah. And then the sister coming and saying, oh, thank you for protecting me and Hari. You know, our family is a part of the Candy Kingdom. He wants to see you, and your mother's so upset with Candy. We think we have an idea for you to get out of trouble and be able to look outside again. Your mother's headed off to meet with the King of Gourds, who's a hardliner against Candy. And we think she's going there to end Candy forever, you work with the King of Gourds. So we thought you could give your mother this present. We have it wrapped and ready to go. She's leaving tomorrow. And when she's gone, she'll miss you, and she'll open this gift, and she'll think of you. And at the same time, we have a plan, but just give your mother this gift. And the princess she was a little nervous about this because she didn't know what was in the gift. Don't worry, your mother will love it. And she'll forgive you. It'll make everything better. And then the next scene of her giving her mother the gift and the mother kissing her. And then the next scene after that is her door being opened by a royal messenger saying your mother was captured, placed under, busted by the King of Gourds for candy possession. In his kingdom, it is outlawed no matter who you are. And then you realizing you had set your mother up to be busted by the King of Gourds, and you setting out looking for Hari and Bo, and the people in the kingdom saying, but you're in charge, you're the queen. You saying, don't worry, I'll get to the bottom of this. Where is my maid named Bo? And then you easily find, a little too easy. I don't think the princess realized that it was too easy to find Hari and Bo getting ready to leave. And that you got in that you fell asleep, let's say, in the back of a wagon as they ran off with you. And then the princess reawakens in yet another scene in the Candy Kingdom, which, oh boy, did not look appetizing. Everyone did look down. But Hari and Bo, it was quickly realized that Hari was not Bo's brother, but Bo's son, and that Bo was some sort of magic user, that she was not the official queen of the candy people, but the ostensible leader, and that she was going to keep you and, use you as a tool of negotiating. And that also they were going to, draw in the Gourds troops while they went into your mother, they went into your kingdom. And you were faking it. There was a princess Zenaida saying, oh, no, you've tricked me so. But really inside you were quite upset. But the whole time Hari was watching you. And you sensed that this was more than just the sweet temptation of candy. And that you weren't the only one. And so you sat and you said, well, you pretended to eat candy. And then you asked to see the queen or whatever she called herself. I think she did call herself the Candy Queen, but she wasn't actually a queen. But she was their leader. And you said, well, could I talk to you and Hari? I have another idea, you said. You see, I love candy, and I love Hari, I think. And to be honest, I've looked at your troops, and you don't even stand a chance against my mother's reserve troops, which would be there at the castle waiting. Even with me, my mother really isn't a negotiator anyway, so she won't be swayed. But if Hari and I were married, and if I was in love with Hari, which I am, that was a winkety-wink wink, that I could be, he would be then the rightful heir, right? And I'm sure mother would be, I could work things out with my mother, or that it would change things. She would be driven to a choice. I don't remember this spot, because I don't know, I'm always forgetting it, but you also leaked it out. The soldiers that were listening in the Queen's Guard or whatever, they had heard they stood no chance, because they had too much candy. More candy, less training. And it was, not from sugarcane. It was some other, other candy creation, some other sugar source. And so the Queen actually said, well, I think this is an idea. Let's plan the wedding. And soon they had a wedding. That was another scene. These again were having. I said, maybe there wasn't this many scenes in my original attraction. But he said, okay. And meanwhile, you married Hari. That was shown. And then it was just Princess Zenaida went right into action. And said, who's queen now? I am, because Hari's not a king, and you're not a queen, Candy Queen, self-proclaimed. This is within the province of my mother's kingdom, and I'm taking command of the Candy Kingdom in order to save it. And it will only be a matter of time between, my mother and the Gourd King work things out, and they come here. And you're hemmed in by the Gourd King on one side and my mother on the other side. And, the Forest of Lost Dreams is the only other place to go. And we know there's no candy there. You could see how things work out with them. If whatever state I'm in, my mother's eye, I'm sure you've heard about my mother's ire, haven't you? And the soldiers of the Candy Kingdom did not even delay. And they placed Hari and Bo under the watch, and they went and visited very quickly the Princess Zenaida. Now this is where they said, well, I don't know, did this really happen in my original attraction? But that Hari and Bo, they went to the big farm, the big Candy Kingdom in the sky, and that you sent word to your kingdom. Back, and then you sent word that you were gathering both forces, your mother's forces and the Candy forces, and uniting them and kind of dividing them together, and also offering a small bit of candy to every soldier within your mother's kingdom. But saying, well, now we're taking this Gourd King's got some nerve. And then you marched on the Gourd King's kingdom, and you surrounded it, and, there was just the cliffs of many tears on one side, and then, the Forest of Lost Dreams. So the Gourd King was quick to give up the Gourd King's crown, and, Gourd King actually visited that tear, and your mother was freed. And you said, Mother, this is only one condition here. We'll unite all the kingdoms in our land now. Our lost brothers and sisters who overindulged in candy. And our people who prospered under your rule, Mother, but who secretly longed for candy. And the candy gourds, we don't even know what we're dealing with. Hardliner, even hardliner than you, Mother. And I have an idea of returning candy to our kingdom. One day a month we'll have Candy Day, where you could consume candy. Now, you shouldn't consume all you want, but you can if you wish. And on that day, the candy stores will be open, and people can consume candy. And, the rest of the month, no candy, just like you like, Mother. No candy any other day, and we'll prosper. And that led, this was the final part of the tale told in the last mural, was everyone happily, celebrating and eating candy in moderation, which I think was something that once Princess Zenaida ruled, she said, well, let's just have a moderate candy consumption, period. which, hint, 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 was because the ride was, I did remember this because that was like in the placard outside in permanent brass, was sponsored by one of the one of the Candy Kingdom ears. But I think your hardest job in restoring my memory was in those illusions, where you had to find a way to adjust the lighting and the paint so that one side of the room, when lit, would create these illusions. The illusion of the candy being dropped, the boy outside the window eating the candy, or some of the strange things in your candy dreams that you really worked hard on. But I wondered as you went through this and I said, maybe she added some things in here. Was this really what I was about? A journey through candy and the consequences of an all-or-nothing outlook on candy. Was that who I was? Or was I something else? Now I know that this, and I'm more now of an impressionist version of that. I don't know if the founder would recognize. I think you really did capture the essence of the story, though. As different as your art is, you were very good in the dreams section, and some may say your overuse of black light effects and of the Pepper's illusion, but you seemed hooked in the auditory. You like sound effects too, I noticed. The mules passing gas every once in a while. I said, how did she do that? Quite a bit, but I wondered if you were there for the deeper message of the ride, of these temptations and costs and the natural, and the ire of the parents to say, no, 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 no. But yet something else drawing your attention naturally to the candy, to say, hey, look at this dark chocolate here. Oh, come to our kingdom. We have such sweet sugar treats to draw you in. If you notice that maybe I think the caretaker's worried about the same for you, of the curiosity getting the cat. But you got the cats, I think, one time, so I don't know. But thank you for helping me remember. I've appreciated the time we've spent together, and you resting here with me and repainting me with each little brush stroke, brushing and painting and dipping, color by color, inch by inch, patch by patch, restoring me. Good night. All right, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a tuck you in message. And as I start this message out, I want to make this very clear, especially if you're listening right now and you're new. You only listen to this show occasionally, like once in a while when you need it, or you're just having a tough time right now, getting through something, getting over something, the kind of things I talk about in the intro. Or if you're like me, a lot of times in my life where things financially felt challenging and supporting the show just isn't possible, you really don't need to do anything. You don't need to support the show directly or be concerned because we really do have you. And I'm going to read through some testimonials of people that support the show for them and for you. And those testimonials are just a few of the thousands of people that support the show so it can be here for people that can't support the show, or it really wouldn't make sense if you're only listening occasionally, if you're new, for you to support the show. So we have you covered. Like the listeners who I'm going to read through tonight, and like I'm trying to return to doing, we've done in the past, they're the reason the show can be here night after night, and that you don't have to worry about it. But before we get to those testimonials, there is a BUT, right? If you are listening right now and you normally listen all night long to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes a night, or you listen most nights during the week, if you fall asleep fast and you just happen to be hearing this, or you've been listening longer than a year, if the show is a big part of your evenings, your wind down, and your sleep, that's where I've been trying to be more and more clear and direct. I love making this podcast. The people that work with the show, work on the show, love making it. I love being a service, trying to bring sleepy joy and delight, help you fall asleep, bring you comfort in the deep, dark night. But the only way that happens is if you're in one of those listener categories, is if people that listen the same way as you do support the show. And we all go through seasons, right? So maybe you had your season of supporting the show, or maybe your season of supporting the show's coming up, or maybe you're like, well, I'm not sure. Let me look outside and see what I think. Or maybe you're hoping like that someone else will support the show, because it is either you or someone that listens like you supporting the show, or it's no one supporting the show tonight, right? It's either an all-night listener other than you, or you, the all-night listener, you, the multiple nights a week listener, you, the person that's been listening, or someone else that listens just like you, or it's just to be clear, like that's really what keeps the show going and impacts ups and downs of the show. So I don't know if tonight's your night. If you are in a position to support the show, you've been putting it off, maybe think about supporting it right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. And don't wait for tomorrow or set some kind of thing tomorrow. Or kind of like me, think fondly of the person that we're both hoping steps up tonight, that all-night listener. That person that falls asleep fast, somebody that's been listening 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, or someone that's here every night with us. But who has you guys? Who's in the community supporting the show for everyone? Well, Melissa is. Melissa's been listening for over 2 years now, nearly nightly. So a nearly nightly listener, and it helps so much and puts me in a very relaxed mood. I finally subscribed when I realized on most nights I didn't have my phone with me, but I could literally recite the beginning of the podcast in my head. And even that in my head almost worked. And the reason I didn't do it sooner was part of it was cost, but now I'm in a financial place to do so. But the other part was complacency. I think forgetting to do it when I inevitably would fall asleep. I've always been one of the super listeners described on the show, and I kept putting it off. And I think that came from a place of having all free podcasts. I think it was just truly complacency. I think you say it well in the podcast. This show has given me so much support and help. It's time to turn around and support you and the team. It feels nice to feel like we have a hand in keeping it afloat, and that is really true. And Taylor also supported the show, and Taylor said, I'm an adult, late 20s, early 30s, go through brief periods of insomnia that last around a month, and I tried sleeping me on a friend's recommendation and bounced off it. It wasn't until a few years later when I was really struggling that I tried it again, and it worked. And I found the ads distracting and decided to try out ad-free ones by supporting the show, and found this version worked perfectly. The monthly cost is small compared to the benefit I get from the show. And even when my insomnia quiets down a bit, I still enjoy listening to the show because I like listening to Scooter. So thanks, Taylor. And then Stephanie. Stephanie has been listening for about 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter just describes all the time. I tried the podcast and disliked it. I just didn't get it yet. And then later I was traveling. I thought I'd give her another try, and I've been listening since. And I really like the references on the show, some of the personal stories, and I can fall asleep really quickly now, and that's completely worth supporting the show. And I put on Sleep With Me also to make me feel more comfortable in other times. I just feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means much more to me that I can't help but being a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me. Like there was people with limitless money who should be doing it for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of the very few people who should be a supporter. It took a while, but I did so 3 years ago. I feel like I'm probably one of those super listeners. Scooter works hard for us, and hard work deserves fair compensation. And what about Debbie, who said, I listen almost every night, sometimes all night. I try to keep my queue full. I especially like the Trader Joe's episodes, and I feel comforted by a familiar voice. That's why I support Sleep With Me as a boar bestie, and it seems like a good value. The obstacle to me supporting the show was remembering to do so. Was to remember to do it once I decided to support this podcast. And if I feel responsible, free is great. But if something has worth, it's also important to support it financially. So thanks, Melissa, Taylor, Stephanie, and Debbie for supporting the show. Wouldn't exist without listeners like you. And maybe you relate to it. Maybe you're the person tonight, the Taylor, Stephanie, Debbie, Melissa tonight that'll support the show. And when you do, I believe it or not, I send out a video and I ask you why. So I'm looking forward to hearing your why of why you support the show. Thanks.